And what are you hoping to achieve? In terms of what you've seen so far, where are your sights set?
So, working with Stefan Reber at the University of Ulm in Germany, we have done a study where we compare people that grew up in cities versus people that grew up in farms, exposed to farm animals. And we find that people that grow up in cities um, respond with a much greater and much prolonged inflammatory response to a psychosocial stressor. And so these types of stressors are stressors that we know are risk factors for development of stress-related psychiatric disorders, for example. And so we can envision a time in the future where we might use these types of Darwinian medicine derived interventions to replace what's missing and prevent these types of inappropriate inflammatory conditions that you tend to see in people that grow up in urban environments.
Mhm. And can I ask you what motivated you to pursue this line of research? What drives you?
Yeah, so I've always had an interest in stress physiology, understanding how organisms respond to stress, both in terms of neuroendocrine responses, sympathetic nervous system responses, and more recently, immune responses to stressors, and how all of these responses integrate to determine risk of development of negative outcomes like stress-related psychiatric disorders. And that includes anxiety disorders, mood disorders, and trauma and stressor-related disorders like PTSD. So what really drives me is trying to identify truly novel and effective interventions that can reduce the risk of developing these conditions. We now know that, for example, depression is the #1 cause of disability-adjusted life years worldwide, and so there's a tremendous need. We know that the prevalence of mood disorders and anxiety symptoms increased during the COVID-19 pandemic, and they tend to be particularly common in young people. And so, with all those things taken into account, there really is a tremendous need, and we're simply not meeting that need with our current toolbox. And so, we're trying to develop new approaches that can not only treat these conditions once they develop, but may also be used to prevent these conditions.